Hi, my name is Thais Gibson. I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about the reasons dismissive avoidance can come to doubt their feelings in relationships. Now, there are two key reasons that this happens, and this also applies a little bit to fearful avoidant attachment styles, but I'm going to put that in a separate video because there's sort of nuances to the different types of avoidant attachment styles and why they can come to doubt their feelings. I also want you to know that in this video, this sort of applies to every human being. There are different reasons here, but they show up in different ways for different attachment styles. More insecure, but also to a certain degree secure individuals can struggle with this as well. So before I dive in exactly to the content today, I want you to know that I am showing up every day here to try to do a daily video and support our community with content, learning, all these different things during this sort of time of isolation. If you have any questions for me or you want to see any videos specifically, leave them in the comments below. I will be continuing the friendship series as well. I didn't forget about that. I just had sort of this inspired idea to talk about this today. So that will be there. I'm listening to your guys' comments. And also we are offering scholarships through the Personal Development School and 25% off bundles. So memberships for 3 months, 6 months, etc. Just to make everything affordable and extra support our community. And, there's a lot of individuals in there that are creating mastermind groups and sort of having these breakout sessions. We have 3 live webinars a week for your live questions that I host so that you'll be able to sort of chat with me in there and all that kind of stuff and go through personal questions. And we have over 25 courses and almost 60 webinars about a whole bunch of different isolated topics, trust, forgiveness, all these really specific things that are available to everybody who's a member in the school. So I super encourage you if you're looking to learn and grow. It's a great time to do this. And so let's talk about the content. So first and foremost, one of the key reasons that dismissive avoidants specifically tend to doubt and question their feelings in relationships is because they have competing needs. So imagine that you're a child and you're a dismissive avoidant and you grow up in some kind of circumstance or dynamic where your emotional vulnerability is consistently invalidated. So when you try to express emotions, maybe nobody's holding space for them, or maybe expressing emotions in the home isn't like a normal thing for anybody, so it seems strange and you don't have the skills and tools to try to do that yourself. Or maybe you're just rejected and validated because there's different challenges going on in the household dynamic. But one way or another, basically every time you want to connect through emotional vulnerability, there's some form, maybe with certain exceptions, but overall a much greater degree of rejection around that than anything else. What happens? Your subconscious mind stores vulnerability and deep connection with negative associations. It stores it with feelings of rejection. And then that gets embedded into your subconscious mind, imprinted that way. And that's what you associate when you go to connect and sort of merge more deeply in relationships. You associate that with not being a good thing, it not working out, it only causing pain. And that's your perceptual filter of relationships. So then, because we're wired also for attachment and for connection, I want you to imagine that you take that out into the real world for yourself. And what you experience is this desire on one hand to connect, and then this other need to stay safe at the same time. So you have this need for emotional connection, for bonding, but you have this other need to stay safe. And according to your programmed associations, deep connection is not safe and it doesn't go well. So what happens, and what can really be challenging for the individual going through this, the dismissive avoidant themselves, is that they can want connection and desire it so profoundly and so deeply, but they have this constant sort of push-pull going on inside of them. And overall, there tends to be a lot more negative associations to start out with. And so they have all these sort of strategies that are created in their subconscious to keep them safe, which are distance yourself, don't show up too much, don't get people to get too close to you. And they have all these sort of deactivating things they come up with that are forms of trying to have the connection and stay safe at the same time. And so the intentions are not malicious a lot of the time. They're just these coping mechanisms showing up in adult romantic relating. So this is one of the first big reasons. Now, the second big reason is sort of this offshoot of that. And this is that dismissive avoidant attachment styles generally have very strong stories imprinted in their subconscious mind as well because of the beliefs that they're carrying. So they have a lot of their deactivating strategies, and fearful avoidance have this too. And think of deactivating strategies as all of these interpretations and narrations around what your beliefs are. So for example, let's say you're the dismissive avoidant, and let's say that you have this belief that relationships are unsafe, emotional vulnerability only ends up in rejection. People are not very great to connect deeply with. It doesn't feel so good. It does, vulnerability is sort of treacherous or horrific. Like, let's say you've got these beliefs imprinted in your mind. Well, what's going to happen is when these things are pushed on, when somebody's asking for more closeness or things like that, you're going to have this sort of offshoot of thoughts that will say things like, nope, this isn't going to end well. I don't want to. And you'll have all of these patterns of stories come up that doubt the relationship, try to push the relationship away. And this narration of all the reasons that the relationship's not going to work out, it's not safe, maybe the person's demanding too much from you, all these different things because of unresolved pain points and essentially traumas from the past that are stored in your subconscious and nervous system. So what happens as a result of this is that dismissive avoidance gets so close to these stories. They don't realize that these stories are just sort of isolated events from the past, and that doesn't, just because those were the past experiences that we had, doesn't mean that every single relationship is going to equate to that. But when you have nothing to compare it to, that's all you know and understand. So dismissive avoidance will have this really strong thing going on inside of them where there's a lot of negative storytelling about the relationship, about the person they're in the relationship with, about what's going to happen next. And these painful stories are so close to them that they don't question them and try to understand if they're valid stories or not. So if mom, let's say you were a dismissive avoidant male, and let's say mom, tried to take too much of your emotional energy and dump her, emotions about your father onto you. You might be like, oh, this woman, so you fast forward to your adult romantic relationship, you might be like, oh, this woman's going to just try to take advantage of me emotionally, so I don't want to get too close. And you have that assumption in there in the form of a story. And then the moment this woman tries to open up and share something with you romantically, you're like, oh, she's trying to take advantage of me, because that's what your subconscious knows. And that's how we relate. That's how we function. We relate present experiences to past experiences in order to try to understand them. That's part of what the brain does in its functioning. So these stories will run and run and run and circulate. And these stories, AKA thought patterns, produce emotional responses. We emote according to our thoughts. So we can feel not so great about the relationship because we're thinking painful things about the relationship, actually more so a lot of the time because of past experiences than our present experience itself. And so what this creates is if we start feeling negatively towards a person we're in a relationship with repetitively over time, of course we doubt and question the relationship overall. And what it is it's essentially this old tape running because of unresolved painful experiences in the past. So there's these two things going on at almost any given time for the dismissive avoidant, unless they're doing work on themselves, which is this old narration of painful past experiences that are essentially getting reprojected onto the present. And the dismissive avoidant is emoting and responding accordingly and trying to sort of keep themselves safe. And then there's that competing need, which is if I have this stored association that says relationships are unsafe and yet I want them at the same time, there's this friction happening inside. And this is why we'll see the dismissive avoidant want that connection start off strongly, but as soon as vulnerability starts to take place, as soon as there's a requirement for vulnerability, and not all dismissive avoidants start off strongly. Sometimes they start off very guarded to begin with, but sometimes we'll see that they feel okay until a certain amount of vulnerability is required. And then they start to have all these sort of triggering events and doubt things and question their feelings. And because these patterns are part of their perceptual lens that they see and interact with the world through, because they're these, subconscious programs, they have a very hard time separating from them and initially trying to figure out, like, are these things valid for me? Are these things an accurate depiction of what I truly want long-term in a relationship? Are these about the person I'm in the relationship with? Or is this something happening because of all these old stored experiences from the past? Are my needs truly competing? Is it possible that relationships could be safe? So they can't question them until they're aware that these things are happening beneath the surface of the conscious mind in the first place. So I hope that that makes sense. I know that that was, a lot of talking about our filter and our subconscious lens and all these different things. If you guys are interested, type in the comments below and let me know. And what I can do is create like a follow-up video about some strategies and how to work with this a little bit. We have a ton of this information, like to such extremes, inside of the personal development school, with like steps and 15-page workbooks and initial courses and advanced dismissive avoidant courses and all these things. So that will always be the best resource. Like here, I can only ever make so much in a 15-minute video or so. But post your questions and I watch them and I sort of create content accordingly. So let me know. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.